What nonsense are you talking about?
My name is Emily Harper. I'm 26. This morning, the Lockwood family threw me out. My father had gone bankrupt and left crushing debt.
The Lockwood family cannot accept the daughter of a bankrupt man.
Thorne, my fiancé of 4 years, said nothing. I waited for him to defend me. He avoided my eyes.
Emily, my family does have its considerations.
Considerations? Are you considering whether my dower can cover your family's gambling debts?
What nonsense are you talking about?
I saw the bills in your studio. How much did your father lose in Monte Carlo last year? Your family's problems are worse than my father's bankruptcy, but you chose to blame me.
Miss Harper, please leave.
I turned and walked out. Behind me stood the enormous Lockwood mansion. Its perfect lawn and fountain glittered falsely in the sun. 4 years ago, I thought I was entering heaven. Now they discarded me like trash. While I waited for a taxi, a black car stopped beside me. I knew that face immediately. James Carter, the Lockwoods' 32-year-old butler. He had worked there for 8 years. Everyone called him the handsome butler. In 4 years, we had exchanged fewer than 50 restrained, polite sentences.
Miss Harper, do you need to leave this place?
Shouldn't you be inside?
I was fired for defending you.
What did you say?
She called you disreputable. I said you had more dignity than all of them.
Where will you go?
First, I'll take you home. Then I'll find another position.
For here mistaken blathering indifference.
I'd wanted to leave for years. I only needed a reason.
Am I the reason?
You are.
The next morning, I went out to look for work. He drove me to the small apartment I had rented temporarily.
Miss Harper, what will you do next?
Find a job. Start over.
Your father's debts.
I'll repay them myself.
You know, if you need help,
You've already been fired. Don't sacrifice anything else for me. It was the first real smile I had ever seen from him.
it's all right. I have nothing left to lose anyway.
I watched his taillights disappear. That night, 2 images kept returning. Thorne looking away, and James calmly saying, "You are." The next morning, I went out to look for work.
I'm taking you to an interview. 3 companies are hiring today. I know you're good at public relations planning.
How do you know that?
You plan the Lockwoods charity gala every year. You were excellent. Put that experience on your resume.
You noticed even that?
I was a butler. A butler notices everything.
He remembered every gala, my career, even today's interview. For 4 years, he had been watching. James, why are you so good to me?
Because I've been waiting for you for a very long time. Come on, lunch is on me.
James arranged the interview after hearing me mention public relationships only once. He had organized the time, place, and contact. The interview went well. They valued my gala planning experience.
How'd it go?
I'm waiting to hear back. How did you know about today?
Last night you said I have an interview near Central Park tomorrow.
I said that casually.
I remembered. Come on, lunch is on me.
He pulled out my chair, poured water, and asked about food restrictions. He had done these things for guests for 8 years. But today it was not professional courtesy. It felt personal. You were a butler for all 8 years.
From 24 to 32.
Why did you stay so long?
Because you were there.
What do you mean?
I first saw you 4 years ago, waiting 40 minutes for Thorne. You never complained. You just read quietly. I thought you did not belong in that house. Every year I watched you organize their gala. You thanked every worker afterward. You remembered whose child was sick and whose family needed help. I met many people there. You were the only one who noticed.
You were always watching me.
Yes, for 4 years. I just arrived.
After that day, James became a fixed presence in my life. After I received the offer, he drove me to work every morning. I can take the subway.
It's on my way.
Whenever I asked where he lived, he gave the same answer. Later, I learned he crossed half of Manhattan just to pick me up. Work settled into a rhythm, and I began rebuilding my life. The debt was heavy, but my income was enough to repay it in installments.
Let's go.
He said it as if he had done this for years. One night, I worked very late.
Let's go.
How long have you been waiting?
I just arrived.
You always say that.
Because time passes quickly whenever I'm waiting for you.
He had known me for 4 years and spent all 4 slowly approaching. It took me 4 years to truly see his face. James, when did you start liking me?
From the first day. You smoothed down every folded corner while you waited.
Then why wait 4 years?
You were the future lady of the Lockwood house. I was the butler. Professional ethics and self-respect would not allow it.
And now?
Now you've left. My ethics and self-respect are free. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Maybe being rejected by the Lockhards was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Emily, we are together. Do you want that?
3 months later, James and I officially began dating. It happened naturally, like something waiting to be noticed. He made no grand declaration. I gave no dramatic answer. James, does this mean we're together?
I thought we had been together for some time.
Then why didn't you tell me?
I thought you knew.
I didn't.
Then I'll tell you now. Emily, we are together. Do you want that?
I do. It was the lightest smile I had ever seen on him. The news quickly reached the Lockwoods. Thorne sent a message.
I heard you found yourself a butler. Emily, you've truly lowered yourself.
I did not answer. Thorne says I lowered myself by choosing you.
He said that.
Yes.
Then he will regret it.
Why?
Emily, do you trust me?
I do.
Good. Whatever happens next, try not to be too surprised. You are Emily Harper. Emily, I was planning to wait for a better time. But this morning when I went out, I thought there's no better time than now. Because I want you to know right now, I'm going to marry you.
Do you know who I am?
You are Emily Harper. The person I've watched for 4 years and waited for 1 year.
Did you marry me out of pity?
No. It's because I finally waited for the day I can marry you.
Okay. We are already engaged, aged.
Emily, are you really going to marry a butler?
We are already engaged, aged.
Your dad's in a ton of debt. He's just a manager. Can he even cover your bills?
Mr. Thorne, has the $20 million funding gap for the Lockwood family last year been covered?
How did you know?
I've been your housekeeper for 8 years. 8 years is enough time for me to know where all the accounts go, including those IOUs your father signed in Monte Carlo.
Do you have something on them?
I just saw things I wasn't supposed to while working as a butler. But don't worry, I don't plan to do anything with those things, unless they keep bullying you.
What if they keep going?
Then I'll make them know the price of bullying my fiancée is much higher than they imagine.
Our wedding took place in a small church. Only a few friends, one old friend of James, and my father attended. He had been ill since the bankruptcy, but insisted on giving me away himself. His reaction lasted only a second, but I saw it.
You look beautiful today.
So do you.
Lee, I feast, I do.
His voice was steady, restrained, certain, without hesitation. When I first saw him carrying a silver tray, I never imagined this. Now I stood before him, holding his hand.
Your former fiancé is watching from across the street.
Are you afraid?
I invited him. Let him see what a real wedding looks like.
The reception was simple, with only 20 guests.
The woman I married today is the woman I wanted to marry the first day I saw her. It took me 4 years to reach her. Those 4 years were worth it.
He stood in the light, smiling without restraint. At the end stood a real castle. On our wedding night, We did not go to a honeymoon hotel. James drove north. Where are we going?
You'll know when we arrive.
We drove for nearly 2 hours. Beyond it stretched a long drive lined with plane trees. At the end stood a real castle. James, where are we?
This is my home.
Your home.
I am the eldest son of the Cavendish family. 8 years ago, I broke with my father, left home, and became a Lockwood butler.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
I needed to know you would marry me without my surname. You said yes without knowing who I was. Now I can bring you home. Emily Cavaldy, welcome home. The childhood engagement was only the reason
The castle walls looked older and more solemn than anything I had ever seen. The drawbridge was down and warm lights glowed at its entrance. Standing there, I felt as if I had walked onto the set of a historical drama. You said you ran away from home for 8 years and never contacted them at all?
No. My father cut me off. I refused to take over the family business, refused the marriage he arranged, and refused everything he had planned for me. So I went to the Lockwoods and started over.
Why the Lockwoods?
Because you know him.
Your father.
Welcome home, young master, young madam. Philip, this is my wife, Emily. Madam, the master is waiting for you in the study.
Your father is waiting for us.
Don't be nervous. 8 years ago, he agreed to something.
What was it?
The engagement our families arranged when we were children. Your father and mine were old friends. When you were 3, they promised us to each other. After your father went bankrupt, our families lost contact, but my father never forgot.
Looked near the chandelier. He looked young, as if he had finally a secret he had carried for years. Told me who you were. Did you marry me because your father expected you to honor that engagement?
No. I married you because I watched you for 4 years and fell in love with you. The childhood engagement was only the reason my father accepted our marriage. He did accept it. He said you finally brought that girl home. Yes. Emily, you've grown up.
I stood there, completely unsure of what to do.
You came here when you were little. You were 3, chasing butterflies in the garden. You ran too fast and fell. You cried so loudly. Your father picked you up and said, "One day she'll marry into the Cavendish family, and then she won't have to run anymore."
I remembered none of it. When I was 3, my father had not yet gone bankrupt, and our family still moved among old, wealthy families. After we lost everything, those connections disappeared. I never even knew I had been here.
Your father now?
His health is poor. He has been in long-term care since the bankruptcy.
Your timing is very interesting.
I chose the person, not the timing.
I recognized my younger father, the man beside him, and the 2 children in their arms.
That was you and me. You were 3 and I was 6. You picked a flower in the garden and said it was for me. You could barely speak clearly. You said, "For big brother." I never forgot it.
The little white flower looked just like the ones blooming in the garden today. So you're saying that before I could even remember it, I had already given myself to you?
Yes. So you can't change your mind now. What I wanted to do, I've already done.
We settled into the castle, and at first I could not get used to it at all. It was enormous. The corridors felt like a maze, and every room held priceless antiques. Even reaching the kitchen took 10 minutes, and I still needed Philip to guide me. James found my confusion endlessly amusing. Every morning he led me through a new route like he was teaching a lost kitten how to find its way home. Aren't you afraid I'll break something?
If you break it, we'll replace it. There are more in storage.
What about that painting?
A copy. The original is in the next room.
Watching him move through furniture older than either of us, I realized how much of him I still did not know. He had spent 8 years as a servant in another family's estate and hidden the ease of a billionaire heir perfectly. One evening, I finally asked him what those 8 years had cost him. When you were a butler, didn't you ever feel wronged?
I did during the first year. Then I realized a butler can learn a great deal, how to observe people, how to resolve conflict, and how to keep things running without relying on power. That taught me more than sitting in an office signing papers ever could.
Now that you're back with the Caventons, are you planning to start signing those papers?
Do you want me to go back?
I want you to do what you want.
What I wanted to do, I've already done. I married you. Everything else can happen slowly. Yes.
Little by little, I began to understand the castle. James took me through every room and told me the history of every painting and every piece of furniture. His mother's old studio was on the 3rd floor. After she died, his father forbade anyone from touching that vase. What was your mother like?
She loved the sea. Every summer, she took me to a cottage on the coast of Maine. The year before she died, she was still teaching me how to skip stones there. I was 16 when she died. My father never spoke of her again.
The vase felt like a small shrine. It was not meant to be disturbed. James, was your mother part of the reason you ran away?
Partly. My father wanted me to follow the life he had planned for me. But I wanted to choose my own path. If my mother were still here, she would probably say, "Let him go. He'll come back when he's ready."
She was right.
Yes. She always understood me better than my father did.
That night, I went back to the studio alone. Beside the vase was a small photograph of a woman holding a boy by the sea. I did not go in. I only stood there for a moment. Some places do not need to be entered. They only need to be remembered.
Cavendish.
The Lockwoods returned to our lives at a charity gala. James attended as the Cavendish heir, and I stood beside him in a dark blue gown. For 3 seconds, the entire room went silent. Then the whispers spread outward like ripples across water. Thorne Lockwood and his mother were there. His mother's glass shook, spilling champagne over her white glove. They had never known James belonged to the Cavendish family. To them, he was only the butler they had dismissed. Now he stood among the most powerful people in the room as if he had belonged there all his life.
James, you...
Cavendish. You remember correctly. I worked as a butler in your home. That was a personal choice.
Behind my back, his fingertips brushed mine, as if checking that I was still there.
Mr. Cavendish, we had no idea who you were.
You didn't need to know. This is my wife, Emily Cavendish. You already know each other.
I remembered the day he had stood beside his mother and said nothing while I was thrown out. The memory felt so distant now that it no longer hurt. It left only a faint sense of unreality.
Emily, did you know from the beginning?
Know what? That he was a Cavendish.
No, I married him because he loves me, not because of who he is. You don't know what it feels like to make that kind of choice, do you?
What you just said, I'll remember it for a very long time.
The weekend after the gala, Mr. Cavendish invited us for tea. His method was exactly like James's. 2 equally restrained men used the same tea set to discuss the same estate. They had not spoken for 8 years. Now they could share a pot of tea in silence.
Emily, how is your father?
The doctors say he is stable. The care facility is good.
I know that facility. When he went bankrupt, I went to him. I offered to clear his debts. He refused. I cannot let my daughter enter your family feeling inferior.
My father had never told me.
He never told you, did he? That was his nature. He would carry everything himself before letting his child feel indebted.
Thank you for telling me.
I told you because you should know. Your father was a man of dignity. He believed he could climb back on his own. He simply never managed to. But you climbed back for him. He should be at peace now.
Why was your conscience comfortable 8 years ago? The day after the gala, the Lockhart's debts reached the press. Anonymous sources revealed Monte Carlo gambling debts. They also exposed hidden loans and an active tax investigation. Everyone knew who the source was.
I have no idea how that information escaped.
You did it.
What did I do? As a butler, I accidentally saw several documents. 8 years later, my conscience suddenly became uncomfortable.
Why was your conscience comfortable 8 years ago?
8 years ago, they paid my salary. Now they have mistreated my wife. My loyalty has changed.
He had quietly gathered evidence for 8 years. Then he left with one resignation letter and one calm smile. This was not revenge. It was a mathematical proof. They had chosen the wrong person to hurt. Did you always know you would come this far?
When I left the Lockwood's, I had one purpose: to take you away. Whatever happened afterward did not matter.
You revealed your identity for me. You could have stayed hidden.
Living without my name was an escape. You made me willing to return. So I no longer need to run.
He never made kindness look grand. James quietly paid my father's care expenses.
This month's fees have already been settled by a gentleman.
James, you paid my father's bills?
He is my father-in-law.
You could have discussed it with me first.
If I had, you would have said, I can pay it myself. I know you can. But I want him to live somewhere better. That matters to me.
Not okay. He never made kindness look grand. He had taken over the Cavendish business. Yet he still washed cups at home. In public, he was the heir. With me, he was the man who remembers how much sugar I took. Are you this good to me because of the childhood engagement?
Not because of that. That day in the Lockwoods sitting room, you smoothed a folded page. I knew then that you were the person I had been looking for.
Because of one small thing?
Because of that exact small thing. Details reveal character. You care about what other people overlook. You remember the small things that matter. So do I. We are the same kind of person.
Home was not a place. It was the person who understood every small part of me.
Boy stood beside you and brushed the dirt from your...
My father's health improved. The doctor said a better mood was helping his recovery. He finally knew he was no longer a burden to me.
It is exactly as I remember. Only a little older.
You have been here before?
Yes. When you were 3, your mother and I brought you here. You chased butterflies all afternoon. Then you fell and came back crying. An older boy stood beside you and brushed the dirt from your knee.
James.
Yes. Your mother said that boy will always be good to Emily. I paid no attention then. I never expected her to be right.
The castle's shadow stretched across the grass. His white hair looked like the final pages of a book. At least its last chapter was being written well. Dad, was marrying James the right choice? Jeschend out in marriage hucken.
You chose him yourself when you were 3. You had excellent judgment even then.
Your mother said, that boy will always be good to Emily. I paid no attention then. I never expected her to be right.
We launched a scholarship program for children from bankrupt families. I stood outstage to introduce it. James listened to every word. Its purpose came directly from my own life. I saw him raise his phone. He thought no one noticed.
Mrs. Cavendish, is this project rooted in your personal experience?
Yes. I lived through bankruptcy. I know what it feels like when society abandons you. What helped you recover? Someone kept watching. When everyone thought I would fail, he still saw me.
Was that person your husband?
Yes. That night, he showed me the video. Why did you film this?
For my children's children, so they will know how remarkable their grandmother was when she was young.
You are only 32, and you're planning for great-grandpa children.
Since you gave me a flower at 6, my plans have extended to the end of my life.
Your husband?
Yes. I began planning a major charity project. Its purpose was to return children from bankrupt families to school. The inspiration was obvious. I had come from such a family. James said little. Then he donated half of the entire budget.
You did not have to do that.
I did not donate to you. I donated to the project because you created it.
That means you are supporting me.
Yes. I support everything you do.
The launch drew media and industry leaders. He was the Cavendish CEO. Yet he listened exactly as he had when he was a butler, patient, attentive, never seeking attention.
Mrs. Cavendish, did your own experience inspire this project?
Yes, I know the feeling of being abandoned after bankruptcy.
What helped you stand again?
A person who kept watching when everyone else thought I could not succeed.
Your husband?
Yes.
Why keep this? For our descendants, so they will know how good their grandmother was.
You are 32 and already thinking about great-grandchildren?
The day you gave me that flower at 6, my life plan stretched from that moment to its final page.
All past the oil paintings and crystal chandeliers. The first time my father came to visit the castle, James went to the station to meet him himself. They sat in the back while I watched them through the rearview mirror from the passenger seat. The two most important men in my life, one white-haired and seated and towards him as he spoke. James slowed his words, as though speaking to someone who deserved to be heard with care. Philip was already waiting when we reached the castle entrance. He pushed my father through the entrance hall, past the oil paintings and crystal chandeliers. He looked up at the old walls with an expression that held memory, emotion, and the relief of finally being able to rest.
At the time, I thought he was joking. He wasn't joking. At the time, I thought he was joking. He wasn't joking.
That afternoon, we had tea in the garden. The sunlight was beautiful, and my father looked healthier than he had in a long time. Liliana had not been born yet, but we had already begun using the name for the child we imagined. It felt as though she was already somewhere nearby, waiting to become part of this picture.
James, when you were 6, did you already know you would marry her?
I didn't know that when I was 6. But that year, she cried in the garden, and I knelt beside her to brush the mud from her knee. I remember thinking, can't let her keep crying.
Have you managed that now?
I'm still working on it.
Heard my footsteps and turned around. I was pregnant. That morning, I sat on the bathroom floor staring at the 2 lines on the test. For several minutes, I could not move. Then I stood up, and I walked out to find him. James was in the kitchen making eggs, with his apron tied perfectly straight. Heard my footsteps and turned around. The moment he saw my face, the spatula stopped in his hand.
What's wrong?
I placed the test in front of him. He looked down at it for 2 seconds.
2 lines.
Then he looked at me as though someone had pressed pause.
Yes.
2 lines mean...
They mean you're going to be a father.
He turned off the heat and looked at me with surprise, joy, and something deeper I could not fully name.
You're here.
She's still so small, you can't feel anything yet.
I know. I just wanted to say hello. Emily, thank you.
What are you thanking me for?
Thank you for appearing in the Lockwood family's living room and sitting there reading a magazine. Thank you for getting into my car when you left. And thank you for saying yes. Thank you for becoming the mother of my child.
Neither of us ate the eggs that morning. We stood in the kitchen for a long time like 2 actors who had finally reached a new page in the script. The lines were unfamiliar, but every word felt completely real.
He is James.
I know.
The news of the pregnancy quickly reached old Mr. Cavendish. He was pruning roses in the garden. When he heard it relayed by butler Philip, he paused with the scissors in his hand. Then he put down the scissors and walked into the house.
Am I going to be a grandpa?
Yes. You should have told me earlier. We just found out too.
His gaze was gentle and deep, as if the gap at me. You also like Nigasthanir go world drataflaresing butterflies.
Does your dad know?
I haven't told him yet. I want to go in person.
I'll go with you.
Dad, You are going to have a grandchild.
When you were 3, someone told me you would marry well. I did not believe it then. I do now.
Dad, you took me to Cavendish Castle back then.
Been there. You were chasing butterflies in the garden and fell. A 6-year-old boy helped you up. You cried out, "Big brother." He stood there at a lass and finally handed you his handkerchief to wipe your tears.
That boy grew up.
He is James.
I know. I told your mother that the boy looked at you differently.
Those hands had carried silver trays, and now held the Cavendish seal. But from 6 old to now, the way he looked at me had never changed.
Guests can.
James began preparing the nursery. He chose a south-facing room and painted himself.
Light gray works for either a boy or a girl.
He chose furniture as if negotiating an acquisition. Material, safety standards, service life. He made great matters look small, never panicked, and missed nothing. Were you this precise as a butler?
Being a butler required more precision. A crib cannot complain. Guests can.
James, are you afraid?
Of what?
Becoming a father.
Yes. I have few good memories of my father. He was always working. I was always waiting. I left because I did not want to become him.
Will you become him?
No. You are this child's mother. You will not let me. There will be a child here. She will share our blood. She will call me Dad. She will walk, speak, grow.
James, you are already becoming a different man.
Yes, I am changing. He is asking for peace.
Thorne Lockwood returned. 6 months in Europe, he came back to New York. He appeared not as an opponent, but as an envelope. The donation was substantial. Emily, I am sorry for what happened. This money is clean. I hope you can accept it.
He is asking for peace.
Should I accept it?
He does not require your forgiveness, but he needs you to receive the apology. Otherwise, his guilt has nowhere to land.
You understand him better than I do.
No, I understand regret. I regretted not approaching you sooner. I know the weight of if only. Thorne is carrying it now.
What is your if only?
If I had approached you 1 year earlier, you might not have suffered that humiliation. But I was not ready.
You became ready. You are here. That is enough. My reply was brief. The donation was received. Thank you. I wish you well. There was no forgiveness. No reconciliation, only a period. Thorne's paragraph was finally finished. Your knuckles are white around that rabbit. As my due date approached, James stopped all work. He remained home on permanent standby. Every hour he appeared and asked what I needed.
Do you need anything?
James, relax. The due date is still 2 weeks away.
I know. I am relaxed.
Your knuckles are white around that rabbit.
I only want everything ready.
You have made everything ready many times.
I managed hundreds of events during 8 years at the Lockwoods. I never made a serious mistake. But this cannot be rehearsed. I cannot prepare it. I cannot preview it.
You have been preparing since you were 6.
You are right. That is a very long preparation period. If our story became a film, would anyone believe it?
No, it is far too melodramatic.
But it is true.
The more true it is, the more invented it sounds.
Then we will keep it real. We will keep it real for so long
that no one will mistake it for a movie again. She is the smallest thing I have ever seen.
On the day our daughter was born, James held my hand. He never let go.
James, are you all right?
She is very small.
Newborn babies are small.
She is the smallest thing I have ever seen.
Are you crying?
No. She held your finger.
Because she needs it.
I need it too.
That night, he sat beside the crib until morning. His face held awe, wonder, and feelings he could not yet name.
James, go to sleep.
I am not tired.
I used to work night shifts at the Lockwoods. I would stare into corridor and wait. Now the corridor does not need watching. She is here, inside the room.
The silent butler, who once walked another family's halls, was guarding his own complete home. We named her Liliana Emily Cavendish.
You gave birth to her. A part of you should live in her name.
Is your mother's name part of yours?
No.
After she died, my father placed hybranias on her grave every birthday. A name does not have to be written down. Some things continue because they are done every year.
What will you do on Liliana's birthdays?
Every year, I will take her to the garden. I will show her the flowers and tell her that her mother was very brave when she brought her into the world.
For her first month, we held a small gathering. Two old men, one baby, 3 generations.
Look at them.
I see them
They look happy.
because you made them happy.
Emily, we did it.
Did what?
We went from having nothing to having everything.
We stood complete inside the life she announced. When Liliana turned 1, I showed her the old album. She understood nothing and found everything delightful.
Are you telling her our story?
I am showing her photographs of me as a child.
Did you know me then?
No. But I look happy because someone was brushing dirt from my knee.
I knew then that I would marry you.
You knew that at 6?
Not marriage. When you cried, I felt I should be there. That feeling never disappeared.
This moment deserved another photograph. We will have a second album, won't we?
We will have an entire wall of albums, from you at 3 and me at 6.
To you at 36, me at 39, and Liliana at 60.
Someone will turn every page.
You have imagined Liliana at 60?
I have.
I should be in my 90s then. Still reading this album.
When Liliana began learning to walk, James practiced with her after work every day.
One more step. Good. One more.
He once managed seating plans, gala schedules, and a staff of 30. Now all his attention belonged to someone under 1 meter tall. Every step was major progress. You teach her to walk as if conducting a negotiation.
Negotiation requires less patience. This is more demanding.
And she is prettier than any negotiating opponent I have ever met.
Emily, she walked 7 steps today, 2 more than yesterday.
You remember every step.
Every one. I have forgotten in their ledgers. Her steps remains in my mind.
This room once held only me, waiting for morning. Now my husband and daughter were beside me. They changed one person waiting for dawn into 3 people turning out the light together. When Liliana was 3, my father left us quietly in his sleep.
Emily, I can rest now.
Emily, Dad is gone.
The weight arrived softly, like a feather touching the floor. His hand moved slowly across my back, as if completing a promise that had begun long ago. The funeral was held in a small church.
He said something to me before he died.
What did he say?
Thank you for making sure my daughter would never be alone again. You will never be alone again.
I know. Before he left, my father confirmed one thing. Someone had caught his daughter. One night, I was sitting in the garden looking at the stars. After my dad passed away, I stayed quiet for a while. It's not that I'm too sad to speak, it's that I need to sort through all the memories about him and put them in a safer place. James really gets this kind of silence. He doesn't bother me, but he'll quietly sit next to me while I'm zoning out, holding a book in his hands. Occasionally pass me a cup of tea. One night, I was sitting in the garden looking at the stars. He didn't ask, "What are you thinking?" He just sat there quietly. When I was a kid, my dad often took me to look at the stars. He said, "Look at the brightest one, that's your mom."
He's there now.
Then from now on, when we look at the stars, we'll be seeing the 2 of them at the same time.
His profile looked exactly the same as when he walked across the living room at the Lockwood house carrying a silver tray back then. Still that restrained, polite, never crossing the line face. But now he's sitting next to me, holding my hand, talking about my parents. He's no longer the person who just watched from afar. James, when you used to work the night shift alone, did you ever look at the stars?
Look, there were no lights in the backyard and the starry sky was really bright.
What are you thinking? He thought for a moment.
I wish I didn't have to work night shifts someday.
Not needed now.
Yes.
Now you can sit in your own garden and watch the stars. There's someone next to you, too.
Liliana is already asleep, and most of the lights in the castle are out. That night, we sat in a long time. There were a lot of stars. We're like 2 people who finally don't have to take shifts, don't have to wait, and don't have to hide our names anymore.
I can remember this answer for a long time.
On Liliana's 5th birthday, we threw a small party in the castle's garden. James personally baked a cake, and on it was crookedly written Liliana. She was wearing a white dress, chasing balloons in the garden, and it reminded me of myself in old photos.
She looks a lot like you.
Where?
You like to tilt your head when you run. You used to do the same thing when you ran around Lockwoods' house setting up the venue.
You even remember this?
Remember, you were wearing a white shirt back then, with your hair tied up, and when you ran down the hallway, you tilted your head like you were trying to avoid something.
I'm avoiding Thorne's mom. She always blocks me in the hallway.
Emily, do you regret it, those years?
Regret what?
Regret wasting time at the Lockwoods place?
No regrets. Because if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't have met you.
I can remember this answer for a long time.
Mom, cake!
Okay, let's go cut the cake.
Birthday to you. It won't work if I say it out loud.
So can you tell Dad?
What did she say?
She said, I hope Mom won't burn the cake again in the future.
When have I ever burned something while baking?
Last year. Your birthday. Did you forget?
Okay, Mom, I definitely won't burn it next time.
I said, our home, it's very complete.
And I'm the planet he chose. Liliana started asking about some things from before for us.
Mom, where is this?
This is the place where Mom used to live.
Then why aren't you happy? You're not smiling in the picture.
Back then, I was still waiting for Thorn to turn around, waiting for someone who would never come. Because Mom was waiting for someone at that time.
Waiting for who?
Waiting for someone who would never show up. Later, Mom stopped waiting and met Dad instead.
Dad, you're wearing this. You look like a waiter.
Dad used to work as a waiter.
So why aren't you doing it now?
Because Dad met Mom. Then he didn't want to serve anyone else.
So you're Mom's personal servant.
I am Mom's exclusive husband. Your exclusive dad. This range of service is bigger than you think.
There's a whole galaxy between this scene and that person silently moving through the Lockwood house many years ago. He's already at the center of his own galaxy. And I'm the planet he chose. We made a really good choice.
We've done a lot. Now let's move on to the next one.
A few years later, the stuff with the Lockwoods popped back into my life in a totally unexpected way. Thorn's mother sent a letter through an intermediary, not to James, but to me.
Congratulations. I made mistakes back then. You're better than her.
I held that letter and stood by the study window, looking out for a long time. Then I folded up and put it into the drawer where we keep old photos. No reply. It's not because I'm holding a grudge, it's because it's no longer necessary. Her apology is her own business. I've already moved past the chapter I needed to.
What do you think?
I feel like she's finally starting to get old.
You only admit you're wrong when you're old. When you're young, you just argue stubbornly.
James, why do you think people feel regret?
Because I realized I could have done better. What have you ever regretted?
I regret not leaving the Lockwood house earlier. But then I thought if I had left earlier, you wouldn't have been ready to get close to me yet.
I've been preparing all along. It was only when you left that I felt now it's okay.
So what are you regretting?
I regret not telling you who I am a day earlier. That way you wouldn't have had to face those things alone.
But those things made me who I am today.
I know, so I don't really regret it. I just sometimes think it would have been nice if I could have spared you a little hurt.
James, we made a really good choice.
We've done a lot. Now let's move on to the next one.
Two people in the same place, looking in the same direction. When Liliana was 7, James took the whole family back to the old house he had lived in as a child. It's not Cavendish Castle, it's the little seaside cottage where his mother lived before she passed away. The cabin is in Maine, with white wooden walls and blue shutters. There's a patch of lawn at the entrance that leads straight to the beach. He said this was his mom's favorite place. Liliana saw the sea for the first time and excitedly kicked off her shoes to run into the waves. James is standing next to me, holding her shoes. Did your mom used to bring you here?
Every summer. The year before she left, she was still here teaching me how to skip stones.
You teach Liliana.
Wait until she's a bit older. Right now, she just throws stones into the water and then claps.
The sea breeze blew over, carrying a salty, damp scent. Liliana screamed from afar as she dodged an oncoming wave. I feel like she's turning to the third-generation kids sea-skewed in this family can run. When you were about on this beach as a kid.
I wonder what's on the other side of the sea.
Now
I know what's on the other side of the sea. It's you.
Dad, are you coming again tomorrow?
I'll come again tomorrow.
What about the day after tomorrow?
Come the day after tomorrow, too. As long as you want to come, we'll come.
this little stretch of beach connects his forgotten past with the present we're writing. The sea breeze is still blowing, the waves still rolling, and in Liliana's footprints on the beach stretching off into the distance, two people in the same place, looking in the same direction. James began teaching Liliana some of a butler's work. She set tables, organized shelves, and watered the garden. He did not need the help. He wanted to pass on what 8 years had taught him.
Dad, why do you do this? Aren't you the boss?
A boss must know how to work, whatever job you choose. Remember that every task must be done by someone. No honest task is beneath you. Good. Better than my first one.
When I first saw him, I thought butler was his whole identity. I was wrong. It was one layer he wore very well. Beneath it lived a complete man, past, choices, and 8 years of hidden tenderness. What if Liliana becomes a butler one day?
I will buy a house across the street. I will watch her walk to work each day.
You would not make her come home?
If she wants to return, she can. If not, she is walking her own road. My father let me leave, even when it hurt him. I want to learn that.
You are learning it well.
What is the most important thing we can leave her?
The knowledge that she can go out or come home. Whichever she chooses, someone will be waiting. When Liliana was 10, we returned to Maine. 3 skips felt like a triumph. Do you remember the first time you brought me here?
You stood near the water when a wave struck your skirt. You cried out, then laughed. That was the first moment I thought, she is truly with me.
Before that, you thought it was imaginary?
It felt like a dream. A butler married the woman he had watched for years. It sounded too much like a screenplay.
But it was true.
Emily Cavendish, from 3 years old to 33. A story about waiting and being waited for.
When did you write this?
This morning, before you woke.
Mom, look, it looks like an egg.
It is beautiful. What if we had never entered the same car?
I might still serve in that other house. You might have found another job and another person. We might never have known what we missed.
Are you grateful?
Every minute. Because I looked once more, waited one more day, and drove one more mile.
Stories have countless paths. Only this one led to our beach, where we could sit until darkness arrived.
6 years. I never sent a single one.
When Liliana was 13, she began to take an interest in the history of the castle. James took her to the attic at the very top of the tower. It was filled with old trunks, faded tapestries, and letters left behind by generations of the Cavendish family.
What is this?
I've never shown these to anyone.
The first letter was dated 6 years earlier, during my second year at the Lockwood estate. The handwriting was his, only slightly less mature than it was now.
Emily, today at dinner you thanked the waiter who served the wine. He looked happy. I thought that you was simply your habit. But what you never knew was that every time you said thank you, someone standing in the corner remembered it.
The second letter was dated 5 years earlier.
Emily, today you wore a green dress. I passed beside you while pouring wine for Mr. Thorne. I caught the faint scent of flowers. I didn't know what kind of flower it was. Later, when I passed a flower shop, I smelled every kind of white flower. I still couldn't find that scent.
The third letter was dated 4 years earlier.
The news of your father's bankruptcy arrived today. You sat in the garden. I watched you from the kitchen window. I wanted to go to you, but I knew I couldn't. I hadn't earned the right.
Every letter recorded a moment he had witnessed, but never had the chance to speak aloud. None of them had ever been sent. The final letter was dated 1 week before I left the Lockwood estate.
If you are reading these, it means I have finally caught up with you.
Dust the attic holding 6 year sent letters, and this.
So you had been writing to me long ago.
For 6 years. I never sent a single one because there was still someone else beside you then.
And afterward?
Afterward, there was no one else beside you, so I no longer needed to write.
Liliana stood behind us, quietly turning the pages of an old album without interrupting. All the declarations of love I had ever heard seemed beside that bundle of paper.
James, why didn't you tell me back then?
Because back then, you would have thought I was a strange butler. If I tell you now, you don't need to read letters anymore because I am here beside you now.
Are we coming tomorrow?
Tomorrow and every year.
Until when?
When Liliana was 16, we returned to Maine once more.
She is taller than you now.
Thank you for reminding me.
You were almost her age when you first met me.
I was 26, she is 16.
Time moves quickly.
White strands had appeared in his hair. He still watched her with patient focus.
Mom, Dad, look at this.
It is beautiful. Do you remember her 5th birthday wish? She hoped you would stop burning cakes.
I remember.
Perhaps she still wishes it.
She stopped eating my cakes years ago. She eats yours.
Emily,
Yes.
have you imagined where you would be if we had never met?
Perhaps another city, another company, perhaps another man. He might have treated me well, but he would not have watched me for 4 years in the Lockwood sitting room. He would not have written 6 years of letters or spent 8 years becoming an heir again, and he would never have said, I have waited a long time. Stories have countless possibilities. Only this road leads here.
Are we coming tomorrow?
Tomorrow and every year.
Until when?
Until the waves erase our footprints. Then we will make them again.
In the second bedroom drawer, beside the old photograph.
Show her when she is older.
Show her what?
How a butler wrote enough letters to become the master of a castle. I secretly made another copy. Dad,